Welcome to episode 356 of FBI Retired Case File Review with Jerry Williams. I'm a retired agent on a mission to show you who the FBI is and what the FBI does through my books, my blog, and my podcast case reviews with former colleagues. But wait, today is a special episode. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with executive producer and showrunner Latoya Morgan and lead actress Rachel Hilson about Duster, the new TV series from J.J. Abrams and Latoya Morgan, now streaming on HBO Max. Set in Phoenix in the 1970s, the show follows the first Black female FBI agent as she takes on a crime syndicate by teaming up with a gutsy getaway driver. I'm an FBI consultant on the show, and after my conversations with Latoya and Rachel, I'll talk briefly about the significance of accurate portrayals of the FBI in books, TV, and movies, a major theme of my mission. I absolutely enjoyed my conversations with Latoya Morgan and Rachel Hilson, and I hope you do too. I want to give a shout out to Rachel's mother, Anita. She and I also share some kismet connections. You'll know what I mean after you listen to the interviews. The first season of Duster, 8 episodes, is streaming now on HBO Max. Naturally, I'm hoping Duster will be renewed for multiple seasons. Before we get to my conversations with Latoya and Rachel, I want to thank Dave Thompson for having me on his podcast, Truth Be Told, to discuss communications and interview skills in investigations, in media relations, and in podcast interviews. Thanks, Dave. Check out the Truth Be Told podcast wherever you listen to audio. In your podcast app's description of this episode, there's a link to the show notes at jerrywilliams.com. You'll also find links to where you can buy me a cup of coffee, join my reader team about crime fiction and the FBI in books, TV, and movies, and learn more about me and my books. Thank you for your support. Now here's the show. Writer-producer Latoya Morgan was born and raised in Los Angeles. She's known for her work on Shameless, Parenthood, Turn, Washington Spies, Into the Badlands, and The Walking Dead. She recently joined forces with J.J. Abrams to co-create, showrun, and executive produce the Max series Duster under her shingle, Tinker Toy Productions, alongside Bad Robot for Warner Brothers Television. Morgan's best-selling, genre-bending sci-fi comic book series, Dark Blood, was recently published by Boom Studios. She was enlisted by the company once again, this time along with Creed star Michael B. Jordan and his company Outlier Society, to write Creed The Next Round, the first ever comic book tie-in for the franchise. Morgan holds a BFA in screenwriting from the American Film Institute Conservatory and is a 2-time NAACP Image Award nominee and a member of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. I want to welcome my guest, writer, producer, and amazing storyteller, Latoya Morgan.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is fantastic. I'm going to step back from podcaster and guest and just say I am so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I mean, you did it. You did it.
Yes, indeed. Oh my goodness. It is a major accomplishment and I'm very proud of myself. So I appreciate you saying that.
Oh, well, that's good. You should be. I wrote an email to you and JJ a couple of weeks ago. Well, when I asked to see if you both would do this podcast, and I looked up the date, and it was June of 2020 that I first started talking with you two about it. Can you believe that it took 5 years?
No, insanity. It just so happens that so many wild things occurred, really shortly after I met JJ myself. the pandemic hit. And so we were in that weird limbo of, still trying to develop the show and then also still grappling with all the, news of the day.
And the writer's strike.
Yes, and then later on, the writer's strike happened, and then we were in the middle of shooting a first couple of episodes, and that got interrupted, and who knew that was going to take 6 months, and then it wasn't, we weren't even sure whether it would come back or not because no one was sure of anything. So I'm really grateful that our studio and our network really believed in Duster from the beginning. They were so supportive of us and the show, so I'm excited that the world gets to see it now.
You know who else believed in Duster? Me.
You did, yes.
I mean, as soon as I heard the concept, because, one of my missions, one of my goals is to encourage more women and more minorities to join the FBI. So I saw Duster not just as a TV series, but as a unbelievable recruitment machine to have people say, because I don't think a lot of people think about, Black women as FBI agents. So again, you don't know. And I keep saying this to you every time we email or anything. I keep telling you how invested I am in this. And I'm just so pleased and so proud of how it turned out. I don't know. This is going to be such a unfocused interview
No, it's
because
all okay.
I'm just going to be grinning and smiling the entire time. I'm probably going to forget to ask questions, but no, I'm going to ask some questions.
No, look, before you even dive in, I just want to, say thank you to you. JJ and I were so thrilled that you were able to, consult and answer our wild questions. We had so many because we really wanted to get it right. We really wanted to get into the granular details of what it's like to really be an FBI agent. And so for Nina's character, it was important for us to try to be as authentic as we can. Of course, this is a character, we've made up whole cloth, but, there are rules to this thing. And then you were, anytime we wanted to break them, you were there to tell us, well, it wouldn't happen like this with, our crazy, stuff that we wanted to do. But it was always nice to have a sounding board, and you were great.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Again, I was just so pleased to be a part of it. Now, I've listened to a number of your interviews, and thank you for the shout outs. But I listened to a number of them, and you always say, that you
Yes.
got together with JJ. And for those who don't know, we're talking about JJ Abrams.
Yes.
That you got together with him because he had read some of your scripts. And then you just keep talking. And I'm thinking like, wait. How does that happen?
I actually don't remember how he got the script, but, he read a script of mine that is sort of this crime thriller that he really, really loved. And after he read it, he wanted to meet me immediately. And so I came and I sat down with him and we had this wonderful conversation. We just really hit it off right from the beginning. But what he said was, he said, you have no idea how many scripts I get. And I really love this one. And he said that the script reminded him of this image that he'd had 20 years ago of this phone booth in the middle of the desert and a muscle car racing up to it. And then he said, I think maybe Josh Holloway gets out and he answers the phone. He said, but that's all I got. And so I was like, okay, that's really intriguing. That's fascinating. I'm a big Lost fan, so I love the idea of like anything with Josh Holloway. And so I was like, Sawyer forever. So this is right up my alley. And so I proceeded to sort of throw out ideas of, like who this character could be in the car and why is the phone ringing and who's calling and where is he supposed to be going and what kind of shenanigans is he getting up to out there. And so we just really started bouncing ideas off of each other. And after that meeting, we had talked about a ton really in that short amount of time. And he said, I would really love to work on this with you. And I said, absolutely. That would be amazing. A dream come true.
Yeah, I can't even imagine because, I mean, I just got a taste of that when I got the email that you guys wanted to talk to me, and in the subject line, it had J.J. Abrams and Latoya Morgan. And I'm thinking like, what? Is this a prank?
I know. First of all, I had that too. I looked around like, oh my God, am I being punked? What's happening? But it was great.
Well, you've worked on shows and I read your bio before we started. you've worked on shows such as Shameless and Parenthood, which I watched both of those. I loved them. Turn, In the Badlands, and Walking Dead. But this show is different because it is focused in the community. I mean, you've got Black people in this. And so my question to you is, because this is important for me and I've expressed that to you before,
Yes, absolutely.
how did you get from a muscle car pulls up to a payphone in the desert to the first Black female FBI agent?
Yes. Well, we knew that Jim was a criminal. And so if he's a criminal doing bad things, that we need a law enforcement officer coming after him. And, JJ and I really wanted to really attack the story from a place that we hadn't seen on television before. So that is where the idea of Nina came in, and a lot of the research I was doing, we were kind of settling on our time frame because as we were talking about the idea, we knew it was the 70s. We were trying to figure out where exactly we wanted to set it. And we were circling 1972. And that was when the FBI started letting in women agents. Of course, obviously, you know this, but for the audience. I'll say, oh, that would be amazing. And then we started looking into Sylvia Mathis, and it didn't quite fit our timeline because she came into the FBI in 1976. And so we went back and forth a lot.
I remember you asking me. JJ asked me about it, and I said I won't be mad at you because
Yes,
you look at it this way: this is a fictional character.
right.
Her name is Nina Hayes. It's not Sylvia Mathis. She's in Phoenix. Sylvia went to
Mm-hmm.
New York. It
Yes,
is 72. It's not 1976, but it's not supposed to be her.
yeah,
It's supposed to be about the character. So
exactly.
I get that. I
Yes,
get that.
yes.
So hopefully everybody else will get it too.
Yeah, and I hope so too. And so that was our approach. I respect, Sylvia Mathis and her career so much, and we didn't want to step on that. But we also wanted to make sure that we could have, this way in of this incredibly tenacious and determined and smart Black woman who is this pioneering, trailblazing agent who has met with all these obstacles, from the moment, you see her on screen, but you get to fall in love with her from that moment too. You see how determined she is. You see how smart she is right there from the beginning. And so we were really enamored with, telling the story from that point of view. And we thought that would be a great foil for Jim's character. We needed somebody who could really challenge him and stand up to him. And we found that in Rachel Hilson when we cast her as our Nina.
All right, I have a lot of questions, but I just want to make a comment about Sylvia Mathis because I know a lot of people have said her name and talked about her being the first Black female FBI agent. And I want to be clear because whenever I look at a photo of her, it's bittersweet. It's with sadness and it's with a
Mm-hmm.
little anger and frustration because she quit.
Yeah.
And she quit because of the treatment that she received at the time. But that's why this meant so much to me that you were telling this story because it was like giving Sylvia Mathis an opportunity, even though it's not her, but an opportunity
Yeah.
to go through that career. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of, those deep threads like Reddit, people go down those rabbit holes, and I'm really hopeful that people, look up, Sylvia and her career, and of course, look into your incredible career as well, just to see the, phenomenal work that has been done.
Well, in the show notes for this episode, I'm going to have a couple of episodes that I've done on the history of African American agents in the FBI. So I hope
Fantastic.
I hope they'll check that out. But let me get back to the actual show because another part of the actual show was the casting. And you had already decided that Nina was going to be from Baltimore.
Yes.
And so how unbelievable. It felt like fate. And it was, again, those deep threads that you're talking about, that you decided to hire Rachel Hilson, who's from Be More.
We did not know that at the time. It's so funny. When she did a wonderful audition, and then we brought her in for the chemistry read with Josh. And it was, it was in one of the side sessions where she kind of said to us, and I'm from Baltimore, which we didn't. We were like, what? How could this be? It was absolutely perfect. It was kismet.
All right, so I did already talk to Rachel Hilson, who
Mm-hmm.
plays Nina Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we were curious about was the Morgan State University coffee cup.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you know, I'm a graduate of Morgan State University, and so is Rachel's father. He actually teaches there. So,
What? I
oh,
did
you
not
didn't know
know
that?
that. No, that's
That is
incredible. More kismet. Wow, I did not know that. Oh my goodness. It's just, I really wanted Rachel to go to, Nina's character to go to an HBCU. And that's why I picked it. That's
so
insane.
you didn't know that I went there?
I did not know. And I knew that, obviously her character's from Baltimore, and I wanted to pick an HBCU that was close to there. And that was the one I chose. I mean,
Um,
has my name in it too. So
I
people think that's why I chose it, but that's not why.
I am having chills. I really am.
That's
It's like,
incredible.
wow, all these connections that just
That's
happened.
amazing. Yes, one of my friends teaches there. So that was also a factor. But that is incredible that her dad went there. I love that. And
Yep, he
you,
graduated. He
oh my
graduated
goodness.
2 years after I did. I graduated first. I'm old, so I'm old enough to be her parent.
No,
I'm old
no.
enough to be your mother. Been around for a while.
Oh my goodness.
So
Listen,
cool.
we don't say old, we say seasoned,
Seasoned. Yes.
vintage, classic, wonderful. We say all those things. Um,
Okay.
but no, I love that. That's a fun fact that I did not even know. We could not have asked for a more, I just can't say enough about the strength that she brings to the role with incredible vulnerability. And that's a very difficult thing to master. And as soon as we saw her bring that, not only just for her solo scenes, but we knew that she was the powerhouse that could stand up to Josh Holloway.
Yeah, it's her eyes. Sometimes she's acting with
Yes.
her eyes, just a little side eye here or just a movement, and it tells the whole story. So, yeah.
Listen, I told her to watch a lot of classic films. I told her to watch Pam Grier. I told her to watch, Betty Davis. I told her to watch the best, basically. So there's a lot of, that the eye acting in both of those actors. So I'm sure she grafted that on with all the natural things she does herself.
Well, I would imagine in that story of being the first or being one of the only ones kind of mirrors your career because there's not many Black women. We know the names, but there's not that many that are executive producers and showrunners. And for those who are listening, if you don't know what those titles mean, it means that LaToya is the boss.
Yes, indeed.
So talk a little bit about that and what it means to you to have this show be the show that gets you to that next level in your career.
It was extremely important to me to have a Black woman as the lead of the story, especially at this juncture of my career. I don't stop being a Black woman, no matter what the show I work on. So as, working on, such a diverse group of shows, working on Shameless and Parenthood and Into the Badlands and The Walking Dead, I'm always, even in those spaces, trying to figure out what a character who looks like me, how that character would fit into the world. So that's constantly a part of the story math I'm doing. And so this was the opportunity from the jump to set out to have a Black woman lead in a show that I helped co-create. So it makes me smile every time, because there's such a mix of, myself and, of course, all the historical research I did, and a little pinch of my mom and all that good stuff, and not just, Nina, but all the characters that are on the canvas. And it was just a great collaboration between JJ and I to talk about those things and really get down to who this character is and what is her backstory and how can we make her the most compelling version of Nina Hayes as we can. And so when we kind of circled around the backstory for her character of what happened to her father and that being the prime motivator for what she was doing, it for us it was the perfect match of emotional motivation. There's nothing better than vengeance and revenge, with this wild and crazy world that we wanted to build. We wanted the criminal empire that Saxton runs to, of course, be bad, but it's kind of a place you want to hang out with. I mean, I don't know about you, but I might want to get a drink with Keith David. I'm just saying, I mean, as
Oh,
for Saxon,
definitely. Yeah.
so it's like these guys are terrible and they do bad things, but I kind of love them. And so we wanted it to always be a blend of those things where we would get like the law enforcement, the fight for justice, but we would also get the fun of, playing in the sandbox of these insane criminals who are doing bad things that we love to watch.
Well, I have to say, when we were talking during, the writing of the scripts, and you talked about organized crime, and I know you
Mm-hmm.
went to the mob museum or talked to somebody
Mm-hmm.
there, and
Yep.
then all of a sudden, instead of it being the traditional Italian mafia, Keith David is attached to it, and it becomes this crime syndicate. But
Mm-hmm.
what I thought was so special was that instead of him playing this ruthless, amoral drug kingpin, in the hood, you have him as this sophisticated, worldly, vicious criminal, like a Don Corleone, the
Yes.
Godfather. So tell me about that decision to use this actor, Keith David. I don't know what came first.
Oh my God.
Yeah, what came first?
The what came first was the script. So we obviously what I wanted more than anything was an idealized version of Phoenix. Obviously, uh, I it was strategic for the show to be set there because of the type of business that Saxton does. Since he is in the shipping business, Phoenix is a great hub because you can get to a bunch of different states, and that was great for Jim to be on the road and all of that stuff. But I'm a big fan of The Godfather, so I wanted him to have those sophisticated vibes. There's a movie from the '70s called Black Caesar with Fred Williamson. That was also one of the touchstones that I love. And Keith David. Trust me when Keith David is literally one of my all-time favorite actors. The moment I met him, I told him he has my favorite line reading of all time in the history of movies, and from the movie Platoon. And so I've been a fan of his for a long time. And trust me when
What
I
was the
like the
line? What was the line?
well, it's a little blue, so I don't know if I can say it on here, but
I'll
it's
beep the blue part.
yes. Well, it's so funny. But I love it because of course when you're watching Platoon, you're like, oh my god, who's gonna survive? And of course you're like, oh no, everybody's gonna die. But of course his character survives, and when he's getting on the helicopter, he yells to his friends. He just says, "Goodbye, motherfuckers." And I always love it because it's just so much joy and
Because he's
exuberance
going
in the way.
home.
Yeah, because he's going
Yeah.
home. He made it, baby. And it just always so. When I told him that, he just did his patented Keith David laugh, and oh my god, he loved it. But he's just such an icon, a legend.
So suave, so cool.
For me, not enough love and accolades have been given to this man. So when I say that he was always in our minds, like someone like him, we were like, if we are so blessed to get Keith David, we would be over the moon. And so when he read the script and he accepted the part, we were ecstatic because we knew we needed someone who could bring gravitas, who could be the heavy, but could also be charming, but who could also be paternal, that wonderful father figure that you can always go to that's going to help you out, and but ruthless and a killer. Who could be all those things? And Keith David was the answer.
It's so refreshing because this would have been a totally different character if he was in Philadelphia,
Hmm.
in the Badlands of
Yeah,
Philadelphia,
yeah,
in the hood. And so it was refreshing. Reading the script, I didn't know it was going to be, Keith David and he's going to have a African American family, but it's a family and it's
yeah,
there and it's like she brought it again. She did it
yes.
again.
Again, this comes back to the thing I was saying earlier. No matter what show I'm on, no matter what time period, I'm always looking for people who look like me. Where do I fit into this? And I feel like there's so many people in the audience that are doing the same thing. And I'm all about trying to figure out ways to do television and stories where you feel like you're seeing a fresh take on things. How many times have we seen the Italian mobster? We've seen it so many times. It's great. We love it. But
Yeah, we do love it.
maybe we can have something new this time. And that was the constant refrain that I had when we were creating the show.
I know when I look at the show and I was reading the scripts, I was thinking, and I've heard this on another podcast about Duster, Elmore Leonard,
Yes.
kind of a get shorty. And then
Hmm.
there's another author that I read, Lou Burney. Do you know Lou Burney? It
No, I
has
don't.
Yeah, it's kind of the same kind of vibe that it's drama and it's about crime story, but just a little flavor of comedy, of snark,
Hmm.
of wit,
Yeah.
of cleverness, and yeah, I love this show. I mean, I
That's so
I,
cool.
I know people are going to say, "Of course you love it," they paid you, and the more seasons they have, the more money. That has nothing to do with it. It was just I wanted to love it from the very start. I love the concept. I love the premise, and you delivered.
Thank you so much. We all worked so hard on it. I can't tell you how proud I am of the cast and the crew, especially with, the times, like the time period that, there was, oh my God, the strikes and all that stuff. Everybody really hung in. And when I say they brought their A games, they did, JJ and I, had a lot of everything worked out. We had our vision. We had what we were trying to do, and each department head really collaborated with us and helped elevate our vision even more than we ever imagined.
Well, I know one of the things that really impressed me was the fact that you wanted that authenticity, that you
Hmm.
really went out of your way. I think did
Yeah,
you go to the FBI Academy and headquarters?
we went. I didn't go to the FBI headquarters, but we talked to them. We had so many consultants across the board. We had our heart transplant, because that's a big deal in the pilot. We had those our doctors. We had trucking consultants we spoke to. We had mob consultants. We had so many people that we talked to because we wanted to get the details right. The '70s computers and tech of the time. We had an expert, that we called into the writers' room to talk about that. I'm a big fan of research. So this is something that I love to do, and I love to get really into it because you can set the sandbox really and see the parameters of what was historically accurate so that if you are going to take dramatic license or push the boundaries or something, you're aware of how far you're pushing those boundaries. So all that stuff for me makes the story feel more lived in and more real, which hopefully makes the audience, want to stick around and stay with the characters.
Well, of course, this is podcast is FBI retired case file
Mm-hmm.
review, and that's so I'm really kind of focused on that part of it. And again, just looking around the FBI office, the what they were
Mm-hmm.
wearing, all of that stuff, you got right, and I was just really, really pleased with that. But I was wondering, during this time, especially in the last year, as you are getting ready to finally premiere this show, then you have in real time this re-examination of the FBI. The fact that the FBI from some parts of the citizenship, from
Mm-hmm.
the public, the FBI was encountering some negative public perceptions. Were you ever concerned that that was going to affect Duster's reception with potential viewers?
I guess I hoped that it wouldn't. I wasn't aware of any real specific backlash, but I feel like audiences are so smart. They know the difference between, real life and fiction. And I think the best thing about Duster is that it's a crime show. It's not a documentary. We are fictionalizing things. We're creating our own yarn and our own story, and hopefully the audience will go along with that. And I feel like they can compartmentalize and separate the things that are happening in the real world with, what's happening in our Duster universe.
Exactly. But one of the things
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment about JJ and how so unintimidating or not intimidating he was. I was just really surprised about that. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him.
Oh, yeah.
And I really didn't get a chance to fangirl at all because I am a lost person. I was always on Team Sawyer. I
Team
was an
Sawyer,
Alias.
baby.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
also Alias. I watched every episode
Yes.
of Alias
Yes.
and a little bit of Fringe, his other FBI show. I also want to mention Mike Horowitz. It was a
Hmm.
pleasure working with him too.
Yes, Mike was my number two on the show. So he was great. And JJ is just a incredible human. He's, very gifted in many different ways, and none of that goes to his head, which is a lovely thing.
Yeah,
he is he's one of the kindest and sweetest people I've ever had a chance to work with, and it has been an honor and a pleasure to get to know him so well over all these years, and to now he's like, "You're my sister," and I was like, "You're my brother. We have worked on this together for so long. We are family now."
he is just so cool. I mean, to me, emailing him and he emailing me back in 15, 20 minutes is like mind boggling. How could he do that? Especially if it wasn't even related directly to, something he had asked me. I was just mentioning something. Yeah, it was amazing. But here's my question.
Mhm.
Are we going to get a season two? I heard on another interview that you actually have a 5 season plan just in
We
case in your
do.
back pocket.
Yes, JJ and I, when we first started talking about this, we talked about multiple seasons. So we were always planning this as an ongoing series. We mapped out the tent poles for subsequent seasons, and more recently, I went in and pitched to the network, some of the ideas that I have for season two, and how to expand this crazy world. And so we things are percolating and bubbling. I think it'll all be determined by if we get the audience to watch. So I'm hoping people continue to tune in and keep enjoying the show. And if they do, then we'll get a chance to do more of this, which I know JJ and I would love to do.
I would love for you to do it too. As just a person who loves good, TV, I would love for you to
Yes.
do it
Oh,
too.
thank you. And this all this going out to your audience. Hopefully, we get some new fans in there. That would be amazing.
All right, last question. Of course, we want more seasons, but in the meantime, what's next for you? What are you working on?
Ooh, the outside from more discussions of Lester, hopefully. The biggest thing that I did is I wrote the script for the new Night of the Living Dead movie, and that went really well. So that's going to be produced by Amazon and MGM and Vertigo, and we have a wonderful director attached. So hopefully that'll be cooking and hopefully going into production soon. So that's probably the biggest thing. And then of course I have a bunch of TV and comic book ideas that I'm percolating that'll get out there. And in the meantime, I am promoting this show like crazy because I love it so much, and I'm so incredibly proud of everyone who worked on it. So it was just a wonderful labor of love. So I hope audiences are watching and enjoying.
Well, you mentioned your graphic novels and your comics, so
Mhm.
maybe we can do a comic on superhero Special Agent Nina Hayes.
That would be incredible. Somebody, yes, hire me to write it, please. I would do it in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, I am definitely hanging in there, hoping for a season two. You're not getting rid of
Yes.
me. And all I had to say is I am now Team Latoya.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. Day made, life made. The great Jerry Williams has given me the stamp of approval. Oh my God. I love
All
it.
right. Well, thank you so much for coming on FBI Retired Case File Review. This is going to be my favorite FBI TV series of all times, and I wish you luck. Let's make it happen.
Thank you so much. Appreciate being here.
My conversation with Rachel Hilson is next after this short message. Rachel Hilson currently stars in the HBO Max series Duster from J.J. Abrams and Latoya Morgan. Rachel takes on the lead role of Special Agent Nina Hayes, the first Black female FBI agent. Hilson will soon appear in the recently announced Amazon MGM Studios courtroom comedy Judgment Day, directed by Nick Stoller and starring Will Ferrell and Zac Efron. Hilson's other notable credits include the Emmy-nominated Amazon MGM film Red, White, and Royal Blue, Hulu's acclaim Love, Victor, and NBC's beloved drama series This Is Us, where she played young Beth. A proud graduate of the Baltimore School for the Arts Theater program, Hilson later attended NYU's Gallatin School of Individual Study, where she graduated with a concentration in writing and performing race. Her studies culminated in the writing and production of 3 original plays and extensive research into the societal structures that have shaped and often constrained roles for actors of color. I want to welcome my guest, the talented, the beautiful Rachel Hilson. Hey, Rachel.
Hi, Jerry. That was a very sweet introduction. I'm lovely. Can't I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I should have introduced you as Baltimore.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
now,
That would
how
work
cool was
too.
that? How cool was that for you when you first read the script?
Very cool. I always get excited when I see any sort of reference to Maryland, but especially to Baltimore because it's such a specific little city, our little charm city. So I was very excited to read that.
Did it feel like, I mean, you read that, that she was from Baltimore before you actually got the job. So did it feel like it was fate for you to be selected for this part?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely one of those serendipitous moments. Yeah, that, I think in this business, at least I feel like I try to adopt the idea that the things that are for me won't pass me, or, each role is each person who gets any given role, it's for them. And so I think in this case, yeah, I think those little coincidences, which I guess are not, I don't know if I fully believe in coincidences. I think they're signs that you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing. So yeah, it was perhaps a fate thing, a kismet thing.
Yeah, well, when I heard that, you had gotten the job, I was very excited. Now, I don't want anybody to think that, I knew you beforehand, but I felt that I did
Oh,
because my best friend, Carol, and shout
yeah,
out to Carol, lives in your neighborhood. You went to
yeah.
dance class with her daughter. And so when you got the part on This Is Us, which I watched religiously, she was all excited. And so every time you came on screen, I got excited. Oh, there's Rachel, young Beth. Young Beth is on the screen. And so when you were selected for this part, I felt that it was fate.
Yeah, I know. That's another little piece of this puzzle. This like serendipitous puzzle is yeah, our mutual friend Carol. Yeah, Miss Carol to me, I guess. I know her being my neighbor, and yeah, having danced with her daughter, and her being a former agent. Crazy. just crazy, right under my nose. So yeah, that was very cool too.
All right. So I have to ask you when it was that you first read the script, because this thing, this duster, has been living for a
Mhm.
long time. I first talked to JJ and Latoya in June of 2020.
Yeah, it's been alive for a long time. I first read this script in the fall of 2022. So I've not been with it as long as you guys have, but it's still been quite a long time for me as well. I think I first got this audition, yeah, in the fall of 2022. I didn't get the entire script initially. Sometimes when we get auditions, when actors get auditions, we get just a little snippet of the entire script, usually for, privacy. Actors will get scripts and they'll get a little piece of it before they get the full thing, just so that they can, still keep it relatively, obscure, and so that it doesn't necessarily get out. And so I didn't actually have any idea of where Nina fit into this puzzle. And it wasn't until maybe a month later, when I got my official chemistry read, that I learned that she was, very central to this story.
Oh, wow. So you didn't even know that you were going to be the lead actress if you got this part.
I didn't. No.
Wow.
I auditioned and I thought, okay, this is a fun little coincidence. This woman seems really interesting. I was interested because I've never played somebody like this. I've never played an FBI agent. I very seldom get to play somebody who is from a city like mine, and let alone my city. And so I was very excited about that. But I had no idea that she would be the focus.
So what was the scene that you read during your audition? I'm curious.
I read a couple scenes. So the first one was actually the first scene of the show. That was the first audition I had. And then I also read my first interaction with Jim. And I feel like there was one more, but those two I think were probably the most important, at least for me. The first scene of the show, and then the first time that Nina's introduced to Jim that's they're pivotal moments in the story, as you've now seen and as you read. Because you got these scripts way before I did.
Yeah, I think so. Well, luckily for me, I mean, this has been like a dream come true for me too. That, I was there as they were writing it and, getting all the questions and the suggestions and asking for my thoughts. So I am so invested in Duster, and I am so invested in Special Agent Nina Hayes. So let me ask you, what did you know about the FBI and being an FBI agent before you read for this part?
I knew very little about the FBI, to be honest, apart from what I'd learned in school about, their contentious relationship with the Black community over the course of history. When I was in college, I took a class, I think it was called like Black Women in the Civil Rights Movement. And so we did a large or a long section on the Black Panthers. And so I feel like that was really my like real introduction into the FBI was, their, the way that they sort of terrorized the Black community and the Black Panthers. So I think that's sort of where I was coming from. Obviously the Black community, we've always sort of had, just had a difficult relationship with the federal government and with, law enforcement. And so I think I don't think I've ever had a fully positive opinion of the FBI. But, I think what was so great about this role was I got to talk to people like you. I got to really do my own research and investigate all aspects of the bureau, or as many aspects as I could. I don't know it fully still, but I think coming in, yeah, I didn't know a ton. I'll say that.
All right. So once you found out that Black women back then in the 1970s, 1980s, and even today only make up 1% of the special agent rank, then what did you think?
Well, I wasn't surprised entirely. I think I think with the FBI's long history of opposition toward the Black community, it makes sense that we don't, have folks like us necessarily lined up to participate in what we've been taught is, this sort of agency that's like against us. So, and I don't think that anymore. Let me just say that. I don't think it is inherently corrupt, by the way.
Thank you.
Put that out there. I think that every industry, every agency, there is obviously corruption. So I just want to make that clear. I don't think it's corrupt. But yeah, I mean, I think for Black women, we already have so much against us, and I think that even now that things have opened up for us and we are sort of welcome, at least officially, into these spaces, there are still lines that are drawn perhaps artificially. And I think that it's still going to take some time for that to for those lines to dissipate. So I think it doesn't surprise me, but I'm very encouraged by people like you and hearing stories about other Black women, other Black people in general who are finding their place in this agency, because I think it's super important to have us represented in these spaces.
Well, one of the things that I think is super important is the recruitment opportunities from Duster, from the portrayal of Special Agent Nina Hayes.
Yeah, I agree. I think even especially now, I hope that we're in quite a tense moment politically, and certainly that extends to the Bureau, or I guess the FBI now. And yeah, I hope that there is an opportunity for Special Agent Nina Hayes to inspire younger generations. I think that's I guess the beauty of media portrayals, and ones that feel as close to the truth as possible. Obviously, there are some creative liberties taken just in general, and certainly in this telling. But I think what this show does a good job of is letting people see the opportunity for creativity, the opportunity for challenge and for fun and for barrier breaking. And I one of my favorite parts of this, or one of my favorite relationships in this show, which I don't know if I can say this, but there is a future relationship that viewers will see between Nina and another Black woman, and there's this potential for just like Nina to be aspirational even within this world, and amongst her younger Black female peers in the world of Duster. And I think I hope that extends to viewers.
Yeah, I think that's what all of us as professionals, whatever profession we're in, hope to do by, showing the way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's so beautiful about, our community. One of the things I love most about being Black is the way that we always, when we reach certain heights, I feel like we're always turning around, looking back and extending a hand. And, I would love to see that in every field.
Well, definitely my participation and my investment and my love of this show is because I'm hoping that more people will look at the FBI as, a potential place for them, because it is, as the slogan goes, a job like no other. It really, really is. And if you don't worry about what's happening out there and just concentrate on what's happening in the field, what the FBI is doing in their particular community, then it's all positive. But I do want to ask you about authenticity, because it really seems like you wanted to get the character right. Why did you care so much? Why did it matter to you?
I think that acting is ultimately it's a profession where I think we seek, we seek the truth. I think where we want to tell the truth, which I think it can get misconstrued. I think people think actors are often really good at, lying. I feel like that's sort of the stereotype or just the cliche. But I think what we're truth tellers. And, even with the flair of film and TV and the entertainment value that obviously has to be there, I think what is at the foundation of storytelling in this way is truth. And so I think I just wanted to make sure I got it as close to that as I could. Obviously I'm not an FBI agent.
But you play one on TV.
But I play one on TV, and if I'm gonna play one, and if I'm gonna represent a community of not only Black female agents, but I think agents at large, I want to do my due diligence and try to get as much right as possible. But I think I have the the sort of safety net of her being a novice at this in a lot of ways. She is new. She is still fresh out of Quantico. She's still definitely at risk of making many mistakes. She is human ultimately. And I think that's overarchingly the in, because, you guys, special agents, folks who work at the FBI are superhuman in a lot of ways, but at the core, you guys are human beings doing incredible work. So yeah, I think I was able to lean into her being still new to this and, still learning herself and still growing, because she's a pioneer here too. And so she's learning as she goes as well.
I have reviewed over like 75 TV shows and movies for teachable moments about the FBI. And so, of course, even though I love the show, I could see little things, that I was thinking like, no, that wouldn't really happen. And of course,
I'm sure you are.
like when Nina wants to talk to Jim and she, gets him at gunpoint to come talk to her. I was like, no.
Yeah.
But talking about guns.
Yeah.
I set you up with Julian Gonzalez, one of our agents out in the Phoenix office. And I called him up earlier this week I've been talking to him, but to ask him about you and how your training went.
Oh, God.
No, he said you were a great student, that you were very attentive, which is like the word that you want a firearms instructor to use for you, and that you listen. So was this the first time you had ever shot a gun?
It was the first time I had ever handled a real gun, just in general. That's so funny. I appreciate that he said that. I have to tell you, at the end of our working together, he gave me a baseball hat that said relax. If that gives you any indication of what I was like.
He just happened to have one handy?
I think he got it for me because we worked together over the course of, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 sessions. We did a few sessions at a firing range. And then I think we just sort of met and chatted once or twice. And I think, it being my first time at a firing range, I was a little nervous. But I wanted to do it. I wanted to get this piece right because, initially, I don't know if this made it into the final cut, but Nina was able to shoot a possible. Like she had real prowess with a gun. And so I did want to get it right, but me as Rachel, I'm, not the biggest fan of guns. But I think that also comes from just like a lack of experience with them. And so I think I was just a little tense, but he was a great teacher. It did eventually become fun to, get better, see your aim improve, and, make a sort of sport out of it. I can understand it being, a sport and why people enjoy it. I really enjoyed actually watching at the Olympics. I mean, I can see the appeal, but yeah, I think I wanted get a sense of it, get a feel of it, feel what it feels like. What's the word? I'm not thinking of the right word.
Kickback.
The kickback. Yeah. Feel the weight of it and also just feel comfortable. And he was great at helping me with that. And the overachiever in me, or the student in me is very happy to hear that, that report.
Yes. And he said that he noticed that members of the crew were there watching you, and he thought that would make you nervous. And he was really pleased that you just kind of ignored them and just listened to what he was saying.
Like on set or at the range?
I think he was talking about the range.
The range. Yeah. Yeah. I think in these, I have a lot of experience ignoring the many people around me just from being on set, because you do just have to find a way to focus on the task at hand and the world that's in front of you that you're creating in your mind. And so I do have experience with that. So that wasn't super hard. But yeah, there's people around you, other people who are shooting, and it's just like it's an interesting environment, I must say. It was interesting.
All right, so I'm not asking for any spoilers, but do you see Nina developing and growing in confidence as an agent during this first season? Did
Do
she get
I
into her
see?
groove? Yeah.
Yeah. Does Nina get into a groove? I think so. I think in her own way. I think we see throughout the season, just how focused she is on this particular case. But then we also see her growing curious, I think, about the directions this case is leading her in, the various directions. And I think she just grows just more interested in what exactly is going on at this field office and at the bureau at large. So I think her curiosity certainly grows, and with that, her interest in potentially, I don't know, maybe eventually finding a place here.
All right, here's a question. Did the character of Nina teach you anything that you might be able to use in your career as far as standing up to adversity or, being one among others?
Yeah. I think I always learn something from the various characters I play. I certainly learned something about myself. There's, this is probably also cliche. There's a quote by Meryl Streep that's like, that acting's not about like becoming somebody else, but it's about finding all of these different characters or versions of yourself. It's like taking a character and finding yourself in there or something like that. And so it's always very cool to know that I possess these various characteristics, and I can turn the dial up on some of these characteristics and turn them down on others. So yeah, I think with Nina, the dial was definitely up on confidence and tenacity and her unwillingness to relent or say no. And I think that I have historically probably been a bit of a people pleaser in my life. And so I think since getting to inhabit Nina and this world, I've tried to tap into that power a little bit more. Cause yeah, she's fierce. And I think I'm really grateful that I was given this opportunity, because I think just like, my stature, I'm a petite woman, I don't typically get opportunities to play these uber powerful people in positions of authority. And so I think I've gained a lot of confidence in getting to inhabit her.
Yeah, I know for one thing that she, throughout the season, because I've read all the scripts, commits the ultimate sin, and that is not following the chain of command.
Yeah. Yeah, which I guess is another departure from real life, right? Or at least at the FBI.
Well, I think that as Black women coming in during that time, and I came in 1982, you couldn't follow the chain of command because that would mean that you were probably going to be sitting on a squad doing something that you didn't really care about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so, fighting for an opportunity
Right.
to do the good work. It's what Nina represents for me.
Yeah.
And again, the reason I'm so excited about the character and the possibility of her touching other young women and girls who watch her, I just want them to see her and to see how strong she is and how tenacious she is and how fearless she is.
Yeah. And then also I think how, she can be all of those things and also vulnerable and have a soft underbelly, but she's still able to find that strength when she needs it. One of my favorite scenes is the scene with her mom, when she talks to her mom on the phone about, all of the various insecurities that we would not have necessarily seen if we didn't get that little insight. So yeah, I think I agree. And I hope that young women know that it's okay to go into these things scared or not like completely sure of yourself, but to just do it anyway.
All right, just a couple more quick questions. And one of them is about the songs. I said to somebody, come to Duster for the drama, but stay for the songs. Now, of course, those were songs I grew up with. I mean, I graduated from high school in 1974 and graduated from college in 1978. So this is my, this is my jam here.
Yeah.
What did you think about having that opportunity to play in the 1970s world and the clothes and all of that?
Oh, it was so fun. I agree. I think, come for the drama, come for the FBI, come for the cars, stay for the music, stay for the wardrobe, stay for the hair. It was super fun. We have such a great team. We had an amazing costume designer, Dana Pink, an amazing music. Oh gosh, the woman who did the score and also the composing, Laura Cartman. Michael Ward did the hair. And I think those are really the elements that really shape this world. Our set designer, Jonah, whose last name I'm forgetting. But yeah, those are the things that really, create that feel, that like, tangible 70s feel. It was so fun to inhabit. Yeah, there was one day where we were shooting the last scene of the episode where Nina, she's gotten the signature and she walks into the FBI with this swag and confidence. And we played the song Long Cool Woman while we were shooting that, just to sort of get that feel and, really, really allow the song to move that moment. And
I was wondering if you had that, that the music was there with you. Was that for all scenes or just that scene?
Just for that scene. I think it's for those, those like, I don't know, those button scenes, the scenes where you really want to just nail that energy. And that was also a slow-mo scene where there's going to be stuff over it. And so I wasn't speaking, nobody was speaking. And so we were able to actually play the music, which was really cool.
Well, that is pretty cool. Well, I know one of the things that could become your tagline, and I think I got it right. Did you have a line where you said something about this is going to blow my fro?
I know that's been getting a lot of airtime.
I like it. I'm going to use it.
And blow my fro.
Yeah, don't blow my fro.
Well, it's unfortunately said by one of the, villain antagonists of the show.
Agent so Grant. You didn't say it. Well, we're going to take it, though. We're going to make it our own.
Yeah, we'll take it over. Yeah, I think that's said when Nina first meets a few people in the office. Yeah, I think he says, like, sorry to blow your fro, but I forget exactly what the line is. But yes, I think he says that.
Okay,
we'll take it over. We'll take it.
There were a lot of cool things that I had to mention. And I love the plaid sports coats. I love the smoking in the office because that was something that I definitely wanted them to know about. Because the guys smoked in the office, when I came in. But the coolest thing, Rachel, was the coffee cup with Morgan State University on it.
Yeah.
Because that's where I went, and I know it's where your father went too.
Yeah, I know. That was
who did that? Whose idea was that?
Oh gosh, I don't fully remember. I can't remember if that was in the script initially. I think it was. Yeah, she's an alum. She's a Morgan State alum, and yeah, I forget who put that in there. And her mom, Nina's mom, also teaches there. So yeah, it was cool. It's like a piece of home for her and for me because my dad graduated from Morgan and also taught English at Morgan as well.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about this show. Not to make this about me, but I talked to JJ and LaToya so much, and then I talked to Mike Horowitz so much that I forgot all the stuff that I shared with them and told them And so, the whole Baltimore thing, the Morgan State thing, the Philadelphia thing, because I went to school in
Yeah.
Baltimore, but I spent most of my career in Philadelphia. There's so many connections and things that I see that I just love the show. I mean,
I love that it feels like yours as well, because it is. I'm glad that you feel that connection and sort of ownership over it, because yeah, I think it's our story. I think it's this big, like, capital O, our story in a lot of ways, and so that makes me very happy.
two more questions, real quick questions. First of all, I know we're all hoping that Duster gets a second season, but in the
Mhm.
meantime, what are you working on now?
I actually just finished this film, a comedy called Judgment Day, starring Will Ferrell and Regina Hall and Zac Efron. They've got a few more weeks, but I just wrapped my stuff on Friday, and it's really fun. It's just like this amazing, silly comedy. So it's going to be great. Directed by Nick Stoller, who's done a ton of just iconic comedies.
All right, last question. Now that you have played an FBI agent on TV, you are an official member of the FBI family. So, and I know I have a lot of former and current agents that listen to this. So, is there anything that you want to say to your fellow agents, to your colleagues?
Yes, well, to my colleagues, I would like to say, I guess I would just love to, I would love to thank you guys. I know that there are so many special agents out there doing the work for the people and for the country. And I know it's not easy work. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
And that's the end of the interviews. In your podcast app's description of this episode, there's a direct link to the show notes where you'll find lots of photos of Duster's executive producer and showrunner, Latoya Morgan, and of lead actress Rachel Hilson. You'll also find longer versions of their bios and links to articles about them in the series, as well as links to official trailers and behind-the-scene videos for Duster. There are also links to FBI Retired case file review episodes about the history of African Americans in the FBI, and an episode with tips from retired agents for those interested in working in the TV industry as consultants, writers, talent, or producers. After this short commercial break, I'll talk to you briefly about the importance of accurate portrayals of the FBI in books, TV, and movies. Hi, it's Jerry. Most of you know me as a true crime podcaster, but part of my mission to show the public who the FBI is and what the FBI does includes my reader team, where I write about crime fiction and the FBI in books, TV, and movies, and review TV shows and movies about the FBI for teachable moments about Bureau policies, programs, and procedures. Because I'm aware that most people have never met an FBI agent in person, and what they know about the FBI comes from popular culture. Their only connections being those made by reading books and watching TV shows and movies about the FBI. Depending on your generation, your early knowledge of the FBI might have come from watching Jimmy Stewart in the 1959 movie, The FBI Story. Baby boomers also remember The FBI, the television series starring Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. It was one of the most popular shows on TV from 1965 to 1974. Today, the public continues to be intrigued with the FBI, reflected in an attention-grabbing collection of best-selling novels, major box office hits, and popular TV shows like Duster. All of these are powerful promotional tools, practically commercials for the FBI. These entertaining films and fictions are also recruiting tools for those who might want to join the FBI one day. Some shows are better than others as far as authenticity and accuracy. They don't necessarily go out of their way, like J.J. Abrams, Latoya Morgan, and Rachel Hilson did in seeking out an FBI consultant. So why should we care if entertainment media gets things wrong about the FBI? First of all, an educated audience is mentally thrown out of a story every time they read or watch something that's inaccurate about the FBI. And that's not good. I'm sure authors and producers want to keep their readers and viewers engaged. When someone writing a novel, script, or screenplay get essential facts wrong and falsely portrays FBI procedures and personnel, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people now believe erroneous information about the FBI. Now, I'm aware that many of the cliches and misconceptions are intentionally written into books, scripts, and screenplays due to time constraints and the need to create well-paced scenes and fully developed characters. These shortcuts are needed at times to tell a story in an entertaining way. They're called creative compromises. This is especially true for TV shows. During the creative process, it's understood and accepted that in a 1-hour drama, 42 minutes taking into account commercials, showrunners must quickly move the story from beginning to end. And attempting to create an accurate portrayal of an FBI investigation is almost impossible when the investigation must be solved in less than an hour. When authors are crafting their novels or when writers are drafting a script for a TV show or feature film, they are writing for a general audience. They're not writing for the professional law enforcement officer or FBI agent, and the truth is that most readers and viewers simply want to be entertained. And that's okay. As a crime novelist myself, I understand that the most important thing is telling a great story. I mentioned earlier that most readers and viewers have never met a real FBI agent. Most authors and scriptwriters have never met an FBI agent either. And that's why, again, I appreciate the fact that Duster hired an FBI consultant. My understanding is there were several of us. Like I said, I'm an author too, and I realize that sometimes there is a precarious relationship between reality and the creative process. You have just been listening to an excerpt from my book, FBI Myths and Misconceptions, a manual for armchair detectives, available as ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks wherever books are sold. I hope you enjoyed the interview and that you'll share it with your friends, family, and associates. You can show me just how much you liked it by buying me a coffee. There's a link in your podcast app's description of this episode, or you can visit jerrywilliams.com and tap on the little coffee cup icon in the bottom right-hand corner of my website. Don't forget to follow FBI Retired Case File Review on your favorite podcast app. Now, this podcast is all about true crime, but if you're also interested in crime fiction, once a month via my reader team email, I keep you up to date on the FBI and books, TV, and movies. When you join my reader team, you get access to my FBI reading resource, a colorful list of more than 70 books about the FBI written by FBI agents who have been guests on this podcast. There's nonfiction, crime fiction, true crime, and memoirs. You'll also get my FBI reality checklist where I debunk 20 cliches about the FBI and receive news about what I'm up to and about my FBI nonfiction and crime fiction books. I want to thank you for listening to the very end. I hope you come back for another episode of FBI Retired Case File Review with Jerry Williams. Thank you.